Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to the last session of the 3-day international webinar on water, health and parasites on the eve of the World Water Day 2021. At the outset, I'm pleased to welcome you all here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your host and moderator, Dr. Asima Tanveer, lecturer, Department of Environmental Sciences. With me is Dr. Shamsul Haq, the rapporteur for this session. This session is comprised of 3 lectures by eminent researchers and educationists. Ladies and gentlemen, our first worthy speaker is Professor Kuldeep Krishnan Sharma. Before I formally invite him to start his lecture on biodiversity, why does it matter us? I'll take this opportunity to introduce him to the audience. Professor Kuldeep Krishnan Sharma has done his PhD and MSc in zoology from University of Jammu. He held position of Dean, Faculty of Life Sciences, University of Jammu, and head Department of Zoology, University of Jammu. He was also member of numerous academic and statutory bodies at University of Jammu. He has also been member of Board of Studies, Research Studies of various universities across India. He has also been appointed as member secretary of NAC peer team for accreditation of several institutions and observer for NET and SET examination and member of various expert and accreditation committees by UGC from time to time. Professor K.K. Sharma has a vast teaching and research experience of 36 years. In this tenure, he completed 9 research projects of national interest and 1 internationally collaborated project. He supervised 50 PhD and MPhil scholars and contributed 136 research journals in reputed national and international journals, and he also published or edited 9 books. Professor Sharma has organized 15 conferences, seminars, and workshops, and he's also recipient of several honors. To name a few, selected as Young Scientist by Department of DST, Government of India for Winter School in Aquatic Ecosystem, selected for Indo-Russian Scientific Cultural Exchange Program by UGC, received gold medal and fellowship by the Academy of Environmental Science India, gold medal and fellowship by Zoological Society of India, gold medal and fellowship by Inland Fishery Society of India. With these few words of introduction, I would request now our respected speaker, Professor Sharma, to start his lecture. Professor Sharma, please.
Thank you, Dr. Tanveer, for giving so, elated and exaggerated introduction of me. I don't think that I have been able to do what I really wanted to do in my tenure as professor, dean, and as a scholar like you. Still, the fields are open. And at the onset, I am highly delighted and highly thankful to Professor Fiaz Ahmed, head Department of Environment Science and my old friend, and all the colleagues of environment science who gave me an opportunity to interact with the various students, scholars, as well as the experts in the field in this webinar. I'm audible? I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you are very much audible. You're
okay.
Absolutely audible.
But the photo is not coming, your photo. I mean the other member who are sitting or something like that. Anyway.
But actually, we have kept the videos off so that the internet and the connection run smoothly.
Okay. So
okay, sir.
When Professor Fiaz discussed with me about this international webinar, and I asked him, what are the topics where I will be fitting in? So he told me, sir, it's a very broad and a multidisciplinary webinar where we are having water, health, and parasite. And you can fit in if any of the environmental topic. Then I thought of, when it is being conducted by the Department of Environment, why not to talk something which people have not talked about earlier, the dimensions of biodiversity. So that's why I gave my topic, biodiversity, why does it matter us? Why the biodiversity is a burning topic and why it matters up. Now, if you look at, people talk about the biodiversity in length, and already many versions of the biodiversity has been given. Now, some people had stress more on the species diversity, some on the genetic diversity, or other topic related to this. But I feel that the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the food you eat all rely on the biodiversity. But right now, our biodiversity is in crisis. Who is responsible for such crisis? It is because of us. What does this mean for our future? And can we stop it? These are very, very alarming questions which we have to answer. Now, one of the definition of the biodiversity, people have clearly said that it is variety of life on earth in all its form and all its interactions. If that sounds bewilderingly broad, that's because it is. Biodiversity is the most complex feature of our planet, and it is the most vital for our all the activities. Without biodiversity, there is no future of humanity. This we must bear in our mind. This has been already emphasized by Professor Donald McDonald at the Oxford University. The term biodiversity, if you look at and if you scan the data and the literature, it was coined in 1985, a contradictions of biological diversity, what the huge global biodiversity losses now becoming apparent represent a crisis, equaling or quite possibly surpassing the climate change. So if you compare the climate change and the biodiversity, I think the biodiversity is more important and a more seriously taken matter as compared to the climate change. More formally, biodiversity is comprised of several levels. And we know that starting with genes, then individual species, then communities of the creatures, and finally, entire ecosystem. So what I mean to convey here is that is a genetic diversity we generally talk about. We generally talk about the species diversity, and ultimately it affects the entire ecosystem, such as forests or the coral reef, where life interplays with physical environment. The myriad interactions have made Earth habitable for billions of years. And if we trace back the history, such interactions are so much that the living creatures, they have adapted to live such an environment on this earth. A more philosophical way of viewing biodiversity is this: it represents the knowledge learned by evolving species over millions of years about how to survive through the vastly varying environmental conditions Earth has experienced, seen like that experts warn humanity is currently burning the library of life. So what I mean to convey here is that it is humanity, it is the mankind which is destroying our biodiversity. One of the questions which always, being asked to me by many of our scholars, students, and other workers on biodiversity, sir, do animals and bugs really matters to me or matters to us? And the plausible answer of this question is yes. For many people living in towns and cities, wildlife is often something you watch on television. But the reality is that the air you breathe, the water you drink, and the food you eat all ultimately rely on biodiversity. Some examples are obvious. Without plants, there would be no oxygen, and without bees to pollinate, these plants would have no fruits or nuts or no croplands. So how much important these components of the environment. Others are less obvious, like coral reefs and mangrove swamps provide invaluable protection from cyclones and tsunamis for those living on the coast, while trees can absorb air pollution in urban areas. So looking at the importance that why they are important to us, whether these animals, these bugs and these plants, they are highly important to us. And if they will not be there, then one can imagine the future of the mankind or the human beings. Others appear biceps, tropical terratites, if you look at, and the spider monkeys seemingly have little to do with maintaining a stable climate. So they don't play a role in maintaining the climatic changes or in maintaining the climates. What the dense hardwood trees that are most effective in removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere rely on their seeds because being dispersed by these large fruit eaters. So these organisms, though they are not important, and as I have already told you, that these organisms, they play a vital role in dispersing the seeds from one end to the other end in a forest ecosystem, thus growing more and more tree in those areas. You can imagine a situation when these tortoises, these spider monkeys, these animals will not be there in the system, how the pollination takes place, how the distribution of seeds takes place in that area. And you can imagine after, say, 1 year, 2 year, or 10 years of a continuous process, the area will become barren. When scientists explore each ecosystem, they find countless such interactions, and all honed by millions of years of evolution. If undamaged, this produces a finally balanced, healthy system, which contributes to a healthy, sustainable planet. The sheer richness of biodiversity also has human benefits. Many new medicines are harvested from nature, such as fungi that grows on the fur of the sloths can fight cancer. Wild variety of domesticated animals, crops are also crucial, as some will have already solved the challenges of, for example, coping with drought or sultry soils. If money is the major, the services provided by ecosystem are estimated to worth trillions of dollars, double the world GDP. Biodiversity loss in Europe also cost the continent about 3% of the GDP, or $400 million a year, such a huge loss if the biodiversity is affected. From an aesthetic point of view, every one of the million of species is unique, a natural work of art that cannot be recreated once lost. If you look at the comparison, each higher organism is richer in information than the painting made by the greater painters or the musician who made the great music or any other great work, as has also been talked about by Edward O. Wilson, the father of biodiversity, in a seminal paper in 1985. Then another thought provoked me while making or collecting data from the various sources, that just how diverse is the biodiversity? Mind-boggling diverse. The simplest aspect to consider is species. About 1.7 million species of animal, plants, and fungi have been recorded, but there are likely to be 8 to 9 million plants, 9 million and possibly up to 100 millions. The heartland of biodiversity is the tropics, which teems with species in 15 hectares, that is roughly about 37 acres of Borino forest. For example, there are 700 species of tree, some the same number as the whole of North America. Imagine such dense forests are there. Recent work considering diversity at a genetic level has suggested that creatures thought to be single species could in some cases actually be dozens. Then add in bacteria and viruses, and number of distinct organisms may well be in the billions. For example, a single spoonful of soil, if you take, which ultimately provides 90% of all food, contains 10,000 to 50,000 different types of the bacteria. Such a huge diversity is there. You can imagine the situation if such diversity is lost. One can see in a day that if the loss of such bacteria is there, the soil fertility is also lost. The concern is that many species are being lost before we are even aware of them or the role they play in the circle of life. If you look at the latest reports which are available on the Earth, species range between 5.3 million to 1 trillion. So this is the highest number. They say that the number could have gone to 1 trillion of the species available on the Earth. But some of the people have the finding, and which are available with us, the latest finding. They said that it is roughly about 1.5 million species are there on the Earth. But some more reports, if you look at, you will find that some people say that it is about 200 million, and some says that it is too high, that is 12 million. And the latest report which I talked to you is, they say that it can, number of species here on the Earth planet can go up to 1 trillion. And you can imagine that if such a huge number is there, every day there is a loss of species. Species are dying. We are not knowing those species. We are knowing those species only about the health of those species which we know. They are dying. Their number is dwindling. But simultaneously, those species which has not been identified so far, and their number is so high, the total number, how much they are dying, we are not knowing, and such damage is a great loss to the biodiversity. Then, while writing this, I thought of that just to ponder upon that how bad is it? It is very bad. The best studied creatures are the ones like us, the large mammals. Tiger numbers, for example, have plunged by 97% in the last century. In many places, bigger animals have already been wiped out by humans. Think dodos or the woolly mammoth. The extinction rate of the species is how now thought to be about 1,000 times higher than before human dominated the planet, which may be even faster than the losses after a giant meteorite wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. And interestingly, the sixth mass extinction in geological history has already begun, according to some of the scientists. Lack of the data, the red list produced by the International Union for Conservation of Nature has only assessed 5% of known species. What for the best known groups, it finds many are threatened. 25% of the mammal, 41% of the amphibians, and 13% of the birds. Species extinctions provide a clear but narrow window on the destruction of biodiversity. It is the disappearance of last member of a group that is by definition rare. What new studies are examining the drop in the total number of animals, capturing the plight of the world's most common creatures. The results are scary. Billions of individuals' population have been lost all over the planet, with the number of animals living on the earth having plunged by half since 1970, abandoning the normally sober tone of scientific papers, researcher calls, and massive loss of wildlife, a biological annihilations representing the frightening assault on the foundation of human civilizations. Then what about under the sea? If you look at the scenario, the fresh water under the sea, the similar problems are there. Humans may lack gills. What? That has not protected marine animals. Situation is no more better and perhaps even less understood. In the 2/3 of the planet covered by oceans, seafood is a critical source of protein for more than 2.5 billion people. What rampant overfishing has caused catches to fall steadily since their peak in 1996, and no more than half the ocean is industrially fished. What about the bugs we talk about? Don't cockroaches survive anything? More than 90% of the known species lack backbone. They are about as many species in the family of beetles, Staphylidae alone, as there are total vertebrates, such as mammals, fish, birds. Altogether, there are at least 1 million species of insects and another 3 lakh spiders, mollusks, and crustaceans. What the recent revelations that 70% of the flying insects were lost in the last 25 years in Germany and likely elsewhere indicates the massacre of biodiversity is not sparing creepy crawlies. Also, insects really matters, not just as pollinators, but as predators of pests, decomposers of waste, and crucially, as the base of many wild food chain that supports ecosystem. In this regards, if we lose the insects, then everything is going to collapse, as has been advocated by Professor Dave Colston of Sussex University, UK. We are currently on course of ecological collapsism or ecological Armageddon. Even much loathed parasites are important. 1/3 could be wiped out by climatic changes, making them among the most threatened group on the earth. What scientists, they have already warned that this could destabilize ecosystem, unleashing predictable invasions of surviving parasite into the new era. What is destroying biodiversity? Let us now look at this, that what are the factors or what are the reasons? What could be the possible reasons which affects the biodiversity? I have tried to quantify some of them, and we are particularly as the human being population rises the wild area and raised to create farmlands, housing and industrial sites. The felling of forest is often the first step, and 30-meter hectares, the area of Britain and Ireland, were lost globally in 2060. Poaching and unsustainable hunting for food is another major factor, which is also very, very important throughout the world, and people have taken great cognizance of this. More than 300 mammal species, from chimpanzees to hippos to bats, are being eaten into extinctions. Pollution is also a killer too, with orcas and dolphins are seriously harmed by long-lived industrial pollutants. Global trades contribute further harm. Amphibians have suffered one of the greatest decline of all animals due to the fungal diseases thought to be spread around the world by the pet trades. Global shipping has also spared highly damaging invasive species around the planet, particularly the rats. So we have to take care of these things, that we should not encourage the trading of pets from one country to other unless and until they are medically certified that they are not having any parasite or any of the germs carrying with them. The hardest hit of all habitats may be rivers and lakes, with freshwater animal population in these collapsing by 81% since 1970 data, which is available with us. And after that, how much damage has been done to these animals, one can imagine, following huge water extractions for the farms and people, plus pollution as well as dams. Could the loss of biodiversity be a greater threat to the humanity than climate change? This is a question which I put before everybody here, and I think they have to think on this, that whether the loss of biodiversity is a greater threat to the humanity than the climate change, which at my earlier words I talked about. And I feel personally that the answer to this is the yes. Nothing on earth is experiencing more dramatic changes at the hand of human activities. Changes to the climate are reversible, even if that takes centuries or millennia. But Once species become extinct, which I feel personally, particularly those unknown to science, there is no going back. Those species will not be come and again rehabilitate in the systems. At the moment, we do not know how much biodiversity the planet can lose without promoting widespread ecological collapse. But one approach has assessed so-called planetary boundaries, threshold in the Earth systems that define a safe operating space for humanity. Of the 9 considered, just biodiversity loss and nitrogen pollution are estimated to have crossed, unlike carbon dioxide level, fresh water used, and ozone losses. What can be done in this regards? Giving nature the space and protection it needs is the only answer. Wildlife reserve are obvious solutions, and the world currently protects 15% of the land and 7% of the oceans. But some argue that half of the land surface must be set aside for nature if we want to protect the wildlife and if we want to take out the present situation, alarming situation and precarious situation of wildlife to be out. However, the human population is rising and the wildlife reserve do not work if they hinder local people making a living, which is also associated with the vocationalization or arrangement of the food and feed for the local population which are living near the wildlife reserves. The poaching crisis for elephants and rhinos, for example, in Africa is an extreme example, making the animals worth more alive than dead is the key. For example, by supporting tourism or compensating farmers for livestock killing by wild predators, what it can lead to tough choices. Trophy hunting for a big game is anathema for many. What if the shoots are done sustainably, only killing old lions, for example, and the money raised protect a large swathe of land, should it be permitted? We can all help. Most wildlife is destroyed by land being cleared for cattle, for cultivation purposes, for the palm oils, for timbers, for leathers, for housings, for industries. And most of us consume these products every day, with palm oil being found in many food and toiletries. Choosing only sustainable options help, as does eating less meat, which has an outsized environmental footprints. Another approach is to highlight the value of biodiversity by estimating the financial value of the ecosystem services provided as natural capital. Sometimes this can lead to real saving. Over the last 20 years, New York has spent $2 billion protecting the natural watershed that supply the city with clean water. It has worked so well that 90% of the water needs no further filtering. Building a water treatment plant instead would have cost $10 billion. So you can imagine the comparison that by spending little money, they have saved a lot of money by providing a very clean and a clear water to the masses. What next? Locating the tripping points that moves biodiversity loss into ecological collapse is an urgent priority, and this is the priority. look upon now. Biodiversity is a vast and research fund are very small. If you look at or the compare the saving of biodiversity and the type of funding which is provided, there is a wide gap. It's a very small amount which is being kept in a financial or in a budgets for conservation of biodiversity is a matter which has to be taken very, very seriously by the academicians, by the researcher, by the scientists, as well as by the politicians. But speeding up analysis might help from automatically identifying creatures using machines, learning to real-time DNA sequencing, barcoding, or other things which we generally talk about. There is even an initiative that aims to create an open source genetic database for all plants, animals, and single cell organisms on the planet. It argues that creating commercial opportunities such as self-driving cars, algorithms inspired by Amazonian ants, it could provide an incentive to preserve Earth's biodiversity. However, some researchers say the dire state of biodiversity is already clear enough, and that the missing ingredient in this is the political will. And as I have already pointed out, that it is a political will which can change the scenario to a greater extent. If the politicians really want to save the biodiversity and to bring back the Earth planet to its own place, its original place, I may say, or if you want to keep the pristine glory of the wildlife, the politicians should come forward without any greed, without any this, without any cost and creeds. They should fight with the government, and they should allocate a lot of funding for the conservation of biodiversity with the mission which should be attached to the religion also. Religious leaders should also come forth, which they are doing also. In many places, religion has placed a greater role in conserving some of the animals as well as plants. Religion never allow us to keep to murder these growing organisms from the Earth planet. A global treaty, if we can understand, a global treaty, the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, has set many targets, and people are already thinking on. People have motivated the politician also all over the world. These climatic changes has also brought down the biodiversity, and the CBD has already set many targets. Some are likely to be reached. For example, in one of the reports, 17% of all lands and 10% of the oceans, 10% of the oceans by 2020. Others, such as making all fishing sustainable by the same date, are not. The 196 nations that are members of CBD next meet in Egypt. They were supposed to meet in Egypt in November, but due to pandemic, they could not meet. But the people have started moving, or the scientists of the country, they have started moving in the right direction. And I hope that a good sense will prevail on all the religious leaders, all the political leaders, and all the heads of the states to think on biodiversity very seriously. In his 85 text, Professor E.O. William concluded that this being the only living world we are ever likely to know, let us join to make most of it. That call is more urgent than ever. So his thinking, his predictions in 1980, he has already said that is very urgent and we should take it with priority so far as the conservation of the biodiversity is concerned. Some of the authors, they have beautifully written on the biological diversity crisis, the sixth extinctions, what has nature ever done for us, and the economics of ecosystem and biodiversity in the various years, previous years, are really eye-opener for the manager of this biodiversity. They should go through these literature, these books, where the authors, they have very, very seriously predicted that what will be the future of biodiversity in whole of the world if the protective measures are not taken. With this, I once again thankful to Professor Fiaz Ahmed and his a very dedicated team who organized this and gave me an opportunity to present my view on this topic, the biodiversity. Why does it matter to us? Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Professor Sharma, for your illuminating and thought-provoking talk, which highlights the importance of biodiversity to mankind, or vice versa, the dependence and very survival of human beings on biodiversity. You talked deeply about the role and importance of every species in maintaining the ecological balance, but the way humans treat biodiversity for their greed is questionable and serious, because if these disastrous activities of humans continue, not only the biodiversity is under threat, but the future of humans, the Ashraful Makhlukat, is also under danger. Thank you very much for this elusive talk, sir. Sir, we have received a few questions from our audience. With your permission, I would like to pose first question to you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, sir. So first question is from Umar Hamid. He wants to know what are the alternative options, what alternative options are there for protecting the biodiversity?
Is a very relevant and a very pertinent question Hamid has asked. No, Hamid, you know, I have already explained the present situations and the situation, if you look at, even the smaller group can come forward and do a little work. If they will do a little work in on the area to protect the biodiversity of their area, and if it goes into the other parts of the country and other parts of the world also, such a movement, there is a need for generating such a movement in the country. You can think of one of the example of Swachh Bharat or the other schemes which we started slowly and steadily. You know, that is giving a dividend now. And you know, even in Kashmir, even in Jammu, even in other areas, people are now conscious about that they should not throw their garbage on the, on the lanes and other things, and they are doing. So if we try to maintain, if we try to start such movements all over the areas where we are living, a smaller movement, then these things can be taken to a wider area and then ultimately to the state to the country, and country to the world. So even as small as, you have one of the example of Uttaranchal, when the forests are being cut. Now, one of the lady, she came forward, brought other ladies also, and they tied with the trees and never allowed the contractor to cut the forest, and they saved the forest. So such moments, such actions can help us vis-a-vis as I have already pointed out, that the political will should be there. We can do a lot and we can do wonders.
Yes, sir, definitely. Everybody's contribution is important in
Yeah,
conserving and preserving the biodiversity.
yeah.
Definitely, sir.
And that's why I said even a small action, even your small action, if it bring to light, if you try to create awareness with a small action, and if it goes in a better way, it can do wonders.
Yes, definitely, sir. Sir, I have another question. Extinction and speciation are two processes occurring in nature. It seems that scientists are exaggerating the issue of extinction as they are yet to explore the microbial world and have more focused on plant and animal world. Your thoughts on this process, on this pressing issue, please.
No, no, as you said, extinction and evolution. These are the two processes which are going simultaneously, because the new species are born out of evaluation or mutation. As you know, new species are coming up. We have not been able to even report the species which are available right now. And the extinction, as I told you, the extinction of dinosaurs from this world as an outcome of meteorites and other things, as people call about the ice, ice period are like this. No such things simultaneously going on. What it is, as I told you, it is probably the climate changes. It is probably the climate. It is probably the things which are disturbing their age-old, relationship or interactions between the physico-chemical parameters and the habitat of these organisms. That's why the extinction is going on with a faster rates. You cannot stop, because when we talk about the conservation, when we talk about the lakes, for example, we take the lakes, we say Dal Lake, we say other lakes. The lake is just like a baby. It starts from a small, ponds, grows. Ultimately, there are many things. There are many, situations when the lakes are formed. Now, these lakes slowly and steadily starts reducing its length, both horizontally or the breadth, because of the sedimentations. You cannot stop all the sedimentations. And age has to, the lakes start aging. Aging is a process like the human beings. And ultimately, what we can do, we can accelerate, we can decelerate the aging, but we cannot stop the lake to die. One day the lake has to die. And there are very classic examples. If you know, there is a place called as Sanasat in Jammu. And we have two lakes, Mansar Lake and the Sruisar Lake. Sanasar was also one of the lake like Mansar and Sruisar. And over the years, with the deposition of the sedimentation, with the sedimentation and other things, the lake has reduced to a small pond now. So we can cut down the rate of dying, but we cannot stop the lake. Similarly, extinction of species will be there. We cannot stop. But simultaneously, if the environment is good, if we provide them the suitable environment or the congenial or the favorable environment, the new species will also come up in the system. So these goes simultaneously.
Yes, of course. So another question is, do you think meteorites were the only plausible explanation of extinction of dinosaurs, or there can be other factors like climate change who might have played some role?
If you go through the literature and if you go through the data which is available with the geologists, they talk about that they have given first priority to the meteorites. They say that probably these meteorites, they change whole of the scenario along with the changes in the climate also. The ice age, when we talk about, ice age is a climatic change. And climatic change are also responsible for bringing such extinction. And as I told you, that if you look at the extinction has already started, and are a lot of species, they have already extincted, and they are going to extinct in the coming future also.
Okay, sir, we have another question. It's from Mohammed Yunus Dar. What's the reason behind waiting for 75% of the vegetation of an area to get lost before declaring it a biodiversity hotspot? Doesn't an area merit an attention for its conservation before reaching this stage?
No, no, Dr. Tanveer, I personally say I don't agree with this. You know, some people have worked on this, but a lot of researchers are needed to quantify the area and this thing, because I don't agree with the statement which you have given.
Okay, sir. We have another question. Is loss of biodiversity due to extinction, death, or past events still happening?
It is happening. Yes, it is happening. I told you that the extinction is going on, because every day many species are being lost from the Earth planet.
Okay, sir.
It's a continuous process. And simultaneously, we are also, reporting new species also.
So another question, shall we include change of culture and development of societies from hunters and gatherers to modern IT society responsible for loss of biodiversity across globe?
Of course, the second option. The responsible society can change. I told you, if you take a small project in your area, and if you start protecting the biodiversity of that area, you go to the other area also, give your idea, motivate the people, they will also protect that, and so on and so forth. What is happening? You see the situation of chinar trees in your Kashmir. There was a time when you were having huge chinar tree in Kashmir, and now where those trees has gone slowly and steadily. We are not caring that. We are not planting those trees. Why we stopped, cutting a forest in our state? Because there was looting on the part of the forest. We started reducing our forest cover. And when we stopped these contractor systems, what they were doing previously, they were just taking the, there were one contractor is supposed to take, 100 plants from a particular area. And he used to take 1,000 plants. And thus they destroyed the green economy of the country. And now, we have stopped that practice, and to some extent, regeneration of the forests are there. So we have to take into consideration all these things.
The development at the cost of the environment. Okay, so next question.
Because you cannot stop development, that is there. But as you know, when we make dams and other things, there is always a provision on the part of the, dam manufacturing agencies, that if they cut 10 plants, they have to plant more than 1,000 or 10,000 plants in that area. And in some of the areas they have done also. But most of the area they have not done. And that's why the destruction is there. Because you can take example of Uttarakhand. Lot of damage has been done.
Yes, sir. Okay, so next question
So we
is how
cannot stop this. We cannot stop development, but we have to innovate the method. We have to try to find out the new method also by which we can compensate, because we have to keep the natural reserve to a greater extent. We have to protect the natural reserve, and only then, as I told you, that if there will be no pollinator, no cropland, no food will be there for us in a coming years. So pollinators are also very important here.
yes, of course, sir. Another question is how land use planning can be a way to preserve biodiversity, by Zahid
Yes,
Wani.
yes, land use planning is a very important aspect, and it is all all the things are in papers. We have the plan, but we don't go by that plan. When we start constructing, we don't bother about that. In land use plan, this place is kept for a pond, this place is kept for a park, this place is kept for a city forest, this place is kept for this, and this place is kept for a house. So when we construct the house, we don't forget. When our organizations like JDA, Srinagar Development Authority, and other authorities all over the country, when they construct, they don't bother about. You know what is happening in Dehradun nowadays? What is happening in Missouri? You know, you are making a concrete jungles there. The Greenland cover has gone very down. And now we are thinking, if you look at the example of Old Delhi and New Delhi, and if you try to find out the green area in New Delhi and Old Delhi, in Old Delhi, you will find huge number of trees were planted at that time when they constructed Old Delhi. And New Delhi, nobody bothers about.
So one more question, are genetically engineered species threat to biodiversity?
I think my time is over now. Okay, you can ask, I'll take one more question.
So it doesn't matter, we can switch on to our second lecture if you
Okay. No, you can ask the question. Genetic engineering.
Okay, sir, are genetically engineered species threat to biodiversity?
You know, again, I have to say that if you go through the literature, the people are talking too much about these, and some of the scientists, they have categorically said that they are going to be threat to the biodiversity. And I agree with this, but I say that a lot of researches are required on this before we go to this.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation, wonderful lecture. Indeed, it will enlighten all the audience and we also. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. And we hope these interactions will carry on in future also.
Thank you for allowing me to interact with your, other audience. And I'm once again thankful to you in particular and to your department that for giving me such a great opportunity to be a part of this program. I hope that in future, your department will do more and more, because I used to come to your department when Professor Yusuf Saab was there, then the Ganaisa was there. I don't know whether you met me or not, but I was a constant visitor to Kashmir University, and I feel that that is my second home, particularly the Department of Zoology and Department of Environment.
Of course, sir, you're again welcome. Please do come over here and do such interactions with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome back all here again in this international webinar. Our second worthy speaker is Professor C.J. Hiwari, who will talk on the ichthyoparasitic diseases and their management. So before I formally invite him to start his presentation, I would like to introduce him to the audience. Professor C.J. Hiwari is presently professor and former professor and head Department of Zoology, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad. He has also occupied the position of Director Sericulture, Government of Maharashtra. He has done his MSc and PhD from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad. He has 31 years of teaching experience at undergraduate and postgraduate level. He has been visiting faculty for Department of Biology, Chiang Mai University, Chiang Mai, Thailand. Professor Hiwari has been actively engaged in research and has completed 6 projects as principal investigator, and his thrust areas are applied parasitology and sericulture. He has supervised 21 PhD and MPhil scholars, while 4 research scholars are currently under his supervision. He has so far contributed 148 research papers, 12 books, and took 2 technical reports. He is recipient of several honors, to name a few: Best Paper Presentation Award in 16th National Congress of Parasitology, ISP, held at Bareilly; Professor G.B. Shinde Medal, Gold Medal from Life Science Society, Santa MP; Professor G.P. Agarwal Oration Award in National Seminar at Dehradun; Devang Mehta National Educational Award for Best Professor in Zoology; Lifetime Achievement in Science Zoology Award from Venus International Foundation Center for Advanced Research and Design; Shresht Gurujaran Puraskar by Lions Club of Aurangabad and Jagriti Vidyalay for his best work in educational field. He has also attended 128 national and international conferences and is a life member of numerous scientific associations like ISP Lucknow, IAAVP Izzatnagar, IAAB Hyderabad, Zoological Society of India, Bhubaneswar, Society of Life Science India, Black, Caspian Sea and Central Asian Silk Association, Bulgaria, Indian Science Congress Association, National Environmentalist Association, Ranchi, Central Silk Board, Bangalore. He has also been honored of being Fellow of Zoological Society of India, Bhubaneswar, and Fellow of Society of Life Sciences, India. He's also member of editorial board of Open Access Journal of Animal and Plant Husbandry, ChemBio publisher, Troy, USA. With this brief introduction of Professor Hiwari, I would like to request him to start his lecture. Professor Hiwari. Professor Hiwari, you are requested to unmute your mic and start sharing your presentation. Professor Hiwari is requested to unmute the mic and please share your presentation.
रामभाऊ, हो रामभाऊ, इकडे बरं जरा, हे लावा बरं जरा मला, हे लावून द्या बरं जरा मला.
Sir, sir, are you listening our voice? Professor Hiwari, you are kindly requested to unmute your mic. Professor Hiwari, you are requested to share your presentation and please unmute your mic. Professor Hiwari sir, you're requested to please kindly share your presentation and unmute your mic.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
There is little bit range problem. I am trying on another PC. Little bit problem is there. Just wait for 5 minutes. I will start.
It's okay, sir. It's okay.
Yeah.
Audience is requested to stay tuned because the presentation of Professor Tiwari has been interrupted due to internet disconnectivity. Welcome, Professor Hiwari. Professor Hiwari. Professor Hiwari, am I audible to you?
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir. Sir, you are
I'm
welcome.
listening.
You're welcome to this webinar. Sir, you can start your presentation.
Yeah.
Sir, are you in a position to share it, or we will share it?
Oh, ma'am, because that range problem is there. So I can't able to.
Okay, sir, we will share it. We have already shared it. We will move the slides.
Yeah. So
Okay, sir.
पुढं कसं आहे? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Just to operate that presentation, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So
Okay,
I
go
will
ahead,
talk
sir. You can start.
So welcome to my presentation on ictioparasitic diseases and their management. Basically, when we talk regarding that ictioparasitic diseases, first of all, we have to see what scenario we have in our country. Particularly when you talk regarding our Indian population, our Indian population is totally dependent on the agricultural sector, and majority of the people, they are dependent on agriculture as their occupation. And when you talk regarding that occupational things, many people, they have tried for the different aspect or different occupation, and one of the occupation is inland water culture. And when you go for the inland water culture, this many species of Piscean hosts or many species of Pisces, they are using for the culture purpose. And nowadays, the new thing has been came in picture, that is blue revolution. And that blue revolution, when you talk, that blue revolution is meant for to meet the demand of protein to the ever growing population in our country. And that population is growing day by day, and that population has to be get good food material for them. And in order to feed them protein rich food, they have tried this blue revolution, and this is the spices they are culturing in inland habitat. Next. Hello. Hello.
Is this slide okay, sir?
Yeah. But
Okay.
recently in agricultural no, that prior slide I need. I have taken that slide. Okay, man. But in recent
Okay, sir.
year, in agricultural sector, there are many problems are there, because agricultural productivity day by day it is declining. And why the productivity declines? There are many problems with the agriculture, because shrinkage in net cultivable agricultural area, that is one of the problem. Then depleting groundwater table, that is also one of the problem. And also low farm income and increasing cost of production. And also due to all these things, one thing is happening, that is increasing employment or increasing unemployment in the agricultural sector. So when you talk regarding all these things, so people have gone for this blue revolution. Now, when you see to the blue revolution, What is blue revolution? It is a multi-dimensional economy which focuses particularly on increasing fishery production and productivity by aquaculture and fishery resources, both inland and marine water sector. And what is the objective of blue revolution? Why that blue revolution came in picture? It is for to increase overall fish production, and it is also responsible for to sustain manner or economic prosperity, to modernize the fishery with special focus on new technologies, and to ensure the food and nutritional security to the ever-growing population. And apart from that, when you are looking to this blue revolution, it will generate the employment to the mass, and also it will be also developing fishery sector and aquaculture sector for the farmers' sake. Now, what is the scenario of Indian fisheries? When you are looking to the Indian fisheries, contribution of Indian fisheries to the GDP is 1.07, and our country is second largest in fish production and also third in aquaculture. Employment, what we are getting from this sector is near about 14 millions of employment we are getting, and 65% of that from the inland sector. Now, when you are going to look after to the inland water sector, what are the resources we have in inland water? Area under reservoir is near about 3.15 million hectares is there. Area under different ponds and tanks, that is 2.36 million hectares is there. Area under brackish water we have near about 1.24 million hectares, and rivers and canals also we have, that is 0.19 million hectares area we have. Means when you are talking regarding these resources, we have very good resources in our country, but if you are looking to the productivity of inland water, it is very less. But anyway, when you are going to have that inland water productivity, average inland water productivity from the ponds and tanks is about 3 tons per hectare per year, and from the reservoir that productivity is also very less. Why? Means we are not adopting the better technologies and better practices for the fish farming, and not only that one, but also other factors are also contributing in particular things, that is intensification of farming activity are also we have did, but they are also having certain side effects of that particular intensification of farming activities in the inland water sector. Now, what is the side effect of that one? When you are looking to that side effects, disease incidence and outbreak, that is one of the major side effects what we have got. And in that particular thing, when you are going to see the diseases in detail, the parasite or parasitic diseases is also causing very ill effect on the fish health, and also the mortality of the fishes are happening due to parasitic attacks. And net result, what is the net result of all these things? The net and final result of this thing is it is reducing the productivity and quality of the fish in the inland water sector. And due to that, what is happening is low productivity affects on the income of the farmers, and also socio-economic status of the persons who are engaged in fishery sector. It is also getting affected due to low productivity of the Piscean foods. Now, when you are talking regarding particularly the fish diseases or fish sickness, when you are talking regarding the fish sickness, there are different type of fish sickness as it is there. One is nutritional, second one is environmental, and third one is in parasitic origin. Today I will be talking regarding the parasitic origin sickness or parasitic diseases. Now, what are the common symptoms when you are observing the disease in the fish? Now, when healthy fish is there is something different than the ill fish in the healthy, and ill fishes will become the restless or listless fish will be there. They will not looking very fresh. That is one. And second thing, they will be floating on the surface. One of the important character of the fish is uh, they will not swim properly, and they will be resting at the bottom, or sometimes they will be floating at the surface. That is second character. The third one, they will lose the balance. They cannot able to maintain their position in the column of water. the tail and fins do not seem functional normally with vigor. Discoloration also occurs. Sometimes fading will also occur in color. And gills, when you are observing, they will be very much pale. And there will be secretion of slime over the skin. All these characters, if you are observing in any fish, then you can able to say that the fish is suffering from certain diseases or some diseases. Now, when you are classifying the diseases as such, one is non-parasitic infections are also there, and first category of infection is parasitic infections, which is caused by fungi, bacteria, protozoa, worms, and crustaceans. Means there are different type of parasites in the fish which affects on the health of the fish. Not only health of the fish, will also the productivity of the fishes will go down when you are there is a heavy uh, disease outbreak if it is occurring. Now, when the disease occurs or why the disease prevails in the environment, if the bad water quality is there, then is also possibility of getting diseases. Inappropriate diet, if you are not providing a proper diet, there is a possibility of getting diseases. Also, the too high temperature or too low temperature means the if environmental conditions are not good, then also they will get the disease. And stress is also one of the major factor which is imparting to the disease outbreak. Now, parasitic conditions, when you are occurring the parasitic diseases, but we have to categorize those parasites under two heads. First of all, means the parasites, they are dependent on the fish as a host, and they are not only dependent on the fish as a host, but they are causing certain damage to the host fish. And those parasites are, some are endoparasites and some are ectoparasites, and those ecto and endoparasites can be divided into two, three groups. One is protozoan parasites are there. Third one is helminth parasites are there. In that helminth parasites, certain nematodes are there, nematodes are there, and cystodes are there. And some crustacean parasites is there. Example, fish arugulus is a crustacean parasite which is prevailing more in our area also in the inland water sector or in freshwater sector. Now, when you are talking regarding the parasite itself, that ecto and endoparasites, these are the broadly categorization of the parasite. But apart from that, there are several types of parasitism are recognized in the field. And some are temporary parasites are there, some permanent parasites, obligatory parasites, pathogenic parasites, some non-pathogenic parasites are also there. And some of the parasites are also there, they are also called as hyperparasites. But in case of the fishes, we have certain parasites, they are pathogenic also, and some are non-pathogenic. But these parasites, particularly the worms, I'm talking regarding the worms today, and these worms are affecting on the Piscean hosts. Now, here is one example. What I have taken today is to elaborate what type of parasites are occurring in fish. Now, this fish, Clarius batrachus, this is a freshwater fish which is occurring in our area. And when you are observing the internal parasites or the endoparasites as a worm, this is a single segmented parasite, that is Litocystus parasite or Litocystus species of parasite. And this Litocystus, if you are cut open this intestine, I have got near about 250 parasites in one intestine. Now, what that does, actually, when you are talking regarding, if you are doing the detailed study of that particular parasite, as one of the example, I have taken this Litocystus, and in this Litocystus, I have did the histopathology. I have taken out the intestine, I have made the sectioning, and I have studied the uninfected parasite and the infected parasites of the infected host intestine due to this parasite. And I have found that this parasite will invade totally through the muscular layers of the intestine, and they are causing heavy mechanical damage because they are creating heavy mechanical injury to the host intestine, and they are came up to the serosal layer of the intestine. It is invading through the intestinal layer, and it will create problem in absorption of food material, And due to malabsorption of food material, automatically what will happen? The growth of the fish will not be there, and sometimes the stunted growth is occurring in the fishes. And due to stunted growth, not only sometimes fish may get killed due to the blockage of total intestine. Means food will not pass further ahead due to the complete blockage of the intestine, and some of the parasite will invade in the intestine. They will absorb the nourishment, they will compete with the nutritional status of that fish, and automatically fish becomes very serious, or fish becomes very ill, and they will get killed or they will get died due to the infestation of the parasitic. So such a type of infections are called as karyophyllasis. And this karyophyllasis, particularly it is caused by the karyophylid cystodes, and that particular cystode is having a scolex region, anterior part, and it is having a penetrative type of scolex. Some of the cystodes are there, they are not having the penetrative type of scolex. They are also taking nourishment, but they are not causing more mechanical injury to the host intestine or host tissue. That is also called as non-penetrative type of scolex. But particularly this karyophylus or karyophylid cystodes, what I have taken example today, that Lytocystus is having the penetrative type of scolex, and it causes heavy mechanical injury. And due to this heavy mechanical injury, the fish becomes unhealthy and fish becomes weak, and it will not grow properly. It will not gain the weight also due to malabsorption, or due to problems in the absorption of the food material what he is taking in. Now, when you are talking regarding the treatment of such type of parasite, what are the treatments for the such type of parasite, or how to manage such type of parasites? Because nicotinamide piperazine salt is one of the salt what you are able to give through the food material, so that worms they will get expelled out or they will get killed out. Now, apart from that, we have again many parasites. For example, this is Lytocystus indicus, what I have collected from the fish species Mysticimbalus armatus, that is also causing damage to the host tissue. Now, this is also one of the species which is causing also Trichobothridae or Trichobothrium, is also causing more damage to the host tissue, because these all species are having the penetrative type of scolex. And this particular Sarcomongobothrium, this particular fish species is occurring in the Mysticimbalus also, or it is also occurring in mixed species of fishes. Particularly, this particular parasite or the Sarcomongobothrium is having non-penetrative type of scolex. It will not cause much damage to the host tissue. But when you are talking regarding other parasites, particularly the Lytocystus, what I have taken in from the Claris batrachus, it is causing very heavy mechanical injury to the host tissue. Now, this is one more again parasite, Silurotenia. This is not causing much damage to the host tissue. And apart from that, already I have told you many parasites are there. This is one ectoparasite which is occurring in our area much more. That fish argulus or argulosis is causing disease, argulosis. And that particular fish louse is a crustacean parasite. It is having large suckers, and it will attach to the host tissue, skin of the host, and it will suck the material, or it will take the blood from the fish, and it will make the fish weak, and it will get kill the host sometimes if in heavy infestation. Now, how we can able to remove this fish lice? Because particularly this fish lice, which will feed on mucus, it will feed on skin also, it will feed on mucus, and it will cause bleeding in the fishes in heavy infestation or heavy infection. So what has to be done? There are certain chemicals we can able to use for the removal or for the treatment of the fish in order to cure that fish louse, or we have to remove them by the forceps. But if you are giving a deep treatment for the fish with the help of formaldehyde or salt chemical or potassium permanganate, if you are using for that purpose, you can able to get rid of such type of fish louse diseases or fish argulus. So in brief, we can able to tell, so these parasitic diseases are also very important if you are managing the fishery sector in inland water, because there are many different type of diseases are there. But as we have seen, the ectoparasites as well as certain endoparasites, they are also causing very heavy mechanical injury to the host, and they are causing the host weak, and they are creating many problems to the health hazards to the fish as a host. So thank you very much, one and all, for giving me a chance to interact with you all people. So thank you very much. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Hiwari, for your elaborative and wonderful talk on ichthyoparasitic diseases and their management by giving an insight and overall status and importance of fisheries and aquaculture in India. You also discussed
Thank
in
you.
detail the disease prevalence and outbreak among fishes and its impact on the overall productivity. You also emphasizes on the preventive measures to prevent the diseases and parasites which affect this vital resource. Thank you very much, sir, for
Thank
this
you.
good presentation.
And I'm very much sorry because that connectivity problem was there. That's why much more time has been gone in that one. That's why I'm very much sorry for that particular thing. And I wish you all the success
It's
for
okay,
your.
sir. There is no issue in that. It can happen anywhere. It can happen anywhere. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for being with us
Thank you, ma'am.
for such elaborative talk. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So, listeners and audience are requested to be online because we have third speaker, Dr. Shailja Singh, who will join us after a while. So till the time you have to be at 4:20 p.m. she will join. So you are requested to be online till she make her presence. Thank you very much.